Hi, my name is Madris Tomes. I work for a company called Device Events. It's a company that I started. I paid for my own travel and lodging to come to this event today. I previously worked for the FDA, although I was an IT person and never read a single adverse event report when I worked there. I've come to know this data very well in the last 5 years since I left, and wanted to point out I was the adverse events project manager and also the UDI project manager, so I'll explain to you what that'll mean in a little bit. I wanted to talk about dental implants today because I didn't know of anybody else who was speaking about them. The reason that I want to address them is because dental implants are the second most reported device in the history of adverse event reporting to the FDA. They are second only to blood glucose tests. There have been over 2.2 million adverse event reports for dental implants, and 2.1 million of those were only released in June. 1.6 million of these were classified by the manufacturer as serious injury reports. The vast majority of the device problems associated with implants are due to loss of osseointegration or failure of the implant to integrate with the bone. So you can see here on the slide, I hope it's dark enough for you to view, under the device problem, there are 1.5 million failure to osseointegrate reports. There's something definitely going on with this device. One of the things that I do when I find a signal with adverse events is I tend to look at the company name. I think it's a typical response. What's the brand? What's the company that's causing the issues? When I pulled up the list of the dental implant companies, there was no one company, it's all of them. I don't know if it's a problem with the material, the sourcing, or whether it's exactly what we're talking about today, but these devices are rejected by the body. One of the things that the dental industry has done well is charting. When it comes to other types of implants, the brands are often unclear. But one of the things I wanted to point out was I backed into this data. I went about pulling these adverse event reports in a totally different way than what I usually do. Instead of putting in, I want to look up hips, I want to look up shoulders and knees, I put in what are the adverse events that we're looking for today to point to the problems with the materials. With the first one here, it says unknown versus head. One of the things that I want to point out about this data is that it is dirty. But that being said, there were 120,000 adverse event reports with these terms that I used: local tissue reaction, metallic debris, pseudotumor, necrosis, corrosion, and it spans across different types of devices. It's not always clear which device is being reported, but it often is clear that the materials used are causing serious tissue reactions. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a physician, I'm not an attorney, and I'm not even really a patient. I think I have some clips in me, but I'm not sure. But I'm not having any issues that I know of. I do want to point out that when I backed into this data, you can see here that one of the devices we've discussed today, which contains nitinol, is eSure, and so those reports came in as well. So we're not just talking about orthopedic devices. So when I backed into those reports using those key terms that I mentioned, there are a lot of terms I didn't use. I had so many reports to look at that I was overwhelmed. When I included terms like lupus, fibromyalgia, autoimmune, and then the tests such as SED rate, I had 230,000 reports. So I had to back down because Microsoft Excel is not that big. So what I did was I pulled out the device names and then tried to get an idea of which devices we're talking about. As you can see here, the metal on metal hips are number one reported, possibly because they've received a lot of attention. Here you can also see though that the metal polymer and metal ceramic polymer also have issues, as well as eSure. Another thing I want to point out is the Office of the Inspector General did a study that showed only 14% of adverse events were reported to the FDA. So I'd like you to put that in context with the numbers we're seeing today, that they actually could be 5 or 6 times higher than what we see. I have noticed a very interesting result as I look for adverse events after I speak at panel meetings, after the panel meetings meet. It's not just me. There's always a steep increase in the number of physician reports that come in. And so that's something that I think that after this meeting today, we need to take a look. Okay, maybe people didn't realize this before, patients didn't, maybe not all physicians realized these issues. But this is a chance to ask those physicians and patients to now come forward and send in their adverse event reports so that we have more data. Although 230,000 reports is pretty good, it's a good start. The types of metals used in devices are not regularly included in device labeling. Often the materials include alloys containing nickel. Women typically know if they're allergic to nickel, but patients are not being informed that this metal is going to be implanted in them. The unique device identifier, which is essentially a barcode, contains the field to collect whether a device contains latex, but it doesn't collect whether it contains nickel, cobalt, chromium, or other materials. So if you're not familiar with the UDI, unique device identifier, this is what it looks like. This is a sample label, and you can see around the bottom here, it says contains latex, yes or no. There are fields that can be added to the UDI. It has to go through a regulatory process, but it is doable, and it has been done, and it's still being rolled out. Allergy testing for any device material implanted in the body should be compulsory, even for staples and clips, which I also saw a large number of reports for those. They didn't make the top 10 list, but they're definitely there. Not all sensitivities and allergies can be detected in advance, but this will help physicians determine whether sutures or different type of device or procedure should be considered. Physicians and other care providers need to know what materials are in the devices they use, and that would require that manufacturers disclose this to the FDA on the label and in the UDI database. The unique device identifier should be updated to include metals and alloys contained in devices. This would allow electronic health records to pull through data to the patient file that would help care providers know what might not be compatible with their patient. And finally, the FDA should strongly consider sending all types of physicians a Dear Doctor letter to alert them to the systemic issues, allergy, autoimmune, toxicity, caused by metal-containing devices. They should be asked to review relevant patient files for underdiagnosis of these issues and be asked to report these adverse events directly to the FDA, so the FDA has better and more information on which to base future regulatory and labeling decisions. Thank you.
Thank you.